concern is that if there's nothing in the backyard, is it gonna be your home or your building? Because we've had instances where we approve something that's over the minimum, and then 6 months later, someone comes back wanting an additional increase to put in a patio or a pool. So,
Can I ask how far in design you've gone with this? This is just, you're just trying to get lot coverage, you haven't gone into full design?
Structure, I have everything.
Oh, you've done structural already? I was just trying to figure out how you determine the 35-foot width on this lot, creating such a size of the house. Side setbacks aren't an issue, just,
It's really just the driveway. That's
and you
where
said you
it
could get
takes
it down to what by changing the driveway design?
37%.
37%.
That including or excluding the back patio being smaller?
That would take the back patio to 8 by 8.
Is that the minimum required? There's some minimum requirements in there, Christian, for a back.
I know where there's a minimum for a back patio. I mean, for certain like landings related to doors and stuff like that, there's some very minimal minimums, but I think 8 by 8 would exceed any of those.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I have none. Just have one. So without the driveway, I'm just trying to make sure that we don't corner you into something that, the house itself is, you're saying is 1,905 square feet, correct? As you've designed it. I believe in reading.
Yes, it's 1904.
So your lot is 6,250. So your house is about 30.5% just as a house, correct? Will I calculate, Christian?
Yeah.
So that's 6,250 times the 5.05% gives you
30.4.
312 square feet of usable space, and if you had 50% lot coverage, it gives you 612, 64 to 400, which is how, I'm just trying to make sure you don't have a problem coming back. I'm trying to help you here. Just make sure, if you come down to that, that'd be great. I went through my own question. Thank you.
You can be seated for now. And I will open the public hearing. Do we have any speakers cards on this item?
I'm looking for case 50, and I don't know if it's 50. I don't see any. I have a case for 52, 52, and these are all 53. There's no speaker communications, nothing in the pack, correct?
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who's not filled out a speaker's card who wishes to speak on this item? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
Who's the applicant? Accept that, 37.
Do we have a motion with this amendment?
I've actually got it drawn up that way if you want to see it.
He would need to have notice for less intense coverage. If you want to bring it back up, you can share it through the clerk, but we would need to keep the copy for our records. And Christian, if it's been noticed, I need to discuss it since there's no motion for it. You ready to motion?
Yeah, I want to make sure you guys it from the motion.
See, that says 34%, that's with a geothermal X, but they told me I had to do the 1 foot
Wheels
according,
first.
yeah. So that puts me at 36.52.
Make a motion to approve case number 23-10050 as amended to 37% lot coverage.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and before we discuss, Christian, if were to approve this request at a lesser intensity than what was advertised, it would not need to be renoticed, right?
Correct.
Okay, just making sure. So is there any discussion on the motion of the variance as amended?
I think I just want to make sure the applicant doesn't have corner himself into a box trying to go that far. I think it's reasonable. He's got to hold together, Jim.
Yeah. I'm curious, Christian, so the lot is not undersized.
That's correct, because it's RS3, and the minimum lot size is 6,000 square feet.
I know it was written a long time ago and it's being revised now, but do you know what the rationale is behind having that minimum lot area and that lot coverage in that district?
I don't know what the intent was when it was written. I believe,
My neighbor's at 49%.
RS3 district calls for, so you have a minimum of a 1,200 square foot house and either a single car garage or carport, which probably put the structure with the garage and driveway and all that somewhere in the neighborhood of about 1,500. Maybe 1,600. So your 35% would basically fit if you met all the minimum standards for the house, the garage, the driveway, and all the setbacks. So they should correlate. I know they do with RS1, but for RS3 they should, but you end up with a much smaller house in essence.
Any discussion on the motion? Okay. Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Jeff Truler,
Yes.
Todd Smith,
Yes.
John Moreland,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams,
Yes.
Alexi Gonzalez.
Yes. Your request has been approved as amended. Can we call the next case, please?
DOA 23-10. 10051, applicant Chico Holdings LLC, Adam Alexander, property address 522 10th Street North. Motion is there 34-336E1C2 for a corner yard setback of 13 feet in lieu of 18 feet minimum. 34336E1D for no garage in lieu of required garage, and 34336E1D for additional living space area of 1348 feet in lieu of 1,600 square feet required to allow for enclosure of existing carport to expand interior space at the existing single-family dwelling.
Thank you. As a reminder, each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak when we open the public hearing. Does any board member have ex parte communication on this item?
I've had none. I've had none?
None.
I've had none.
And I've had none. Would the applicant or agent please come forward to be sworn in and give your testimony? There wasn't John Atkins, was it?
No. That's what that is on the next case.
Yeah.
I did have a brief conversation with I left a message for the applicant. They had called very late today to discuss other options with regards to potentially taking the house down and doing something different. So I encourage them to, if they're not sure what they're doing, request a deferral, but as the fact that they're not here tonight, that might be the prudent option until we know if they're going to move forward with this or not.
And we can defer to the next meeting or the next meeting available?
The next meeting is fine. We're not re-advertising or anything.
Okay. And the next meeting would be probably not July 5th, or July, obviously not July 4th, would it be?
Yeah, I think it is July 5th, actually.
Okay. Okay, is there
Motion
a,
to defer the case to the next available meeting. Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will defer this to the July 5th meeting, or the next meeting available. Can we call the next case, please?
Case number BOA 23-100052, applicant Sarah Rocco, property address 1415 3rd Street North. Motion to consider 34425 for no trees in lieu of 2 trees required. 34425B1 for no landscape buffer to vehicular use area in lieu of 5 feet, required 5-foot landscape buffer. And 34-425C1 for no vehicular area interior landscape islands in lieu of required interior landscaping for parking area of 10 spaces or more to allow the conversion of existing single-use commercial space into 3-tenant shopping center.
Thank you. As a reminder, each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak once we open the public hearing. Does any board member have ex parte communication on this item?
I've had none. I've had none.
None.
None. And I've had none. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in and give your testimony?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Sarah Rocco, 1415 3rd Street North. Thank you. Can you tell us the nature of your hardship at the property?
Yes, so essentially there's no room for the required landscaping. The parking lot is already in place, already paved, and so by having to put in the required landscaping, it would greatly minimize the parking ability. So that's pretty much it.
What are the 3 kinds of businesses that are going to be going into that area?
So actually not sure. My intention is to change the whole exterior facade, give it a much prettier, more updated look, and then put it up for lease as an option and see what type of tenants are interested. Initially, I had thought that I wanted to do like a full build out, and I just think that I don't really know what type of tenants are going to be attracted to the area. So I'd rather put it out to the open public and see who's interested.
If I can ask a question to the chairperson, how do we go from the parking requirements in the last application to no parking variances?
I think because the last time it was going to be a hair salon, right?
Correct, yeah, the intent last time was to do a, I think
Like suites.
yeah, individual suites, and for a hair salon, every chair has to have 2
Okay, it was the chair,
spaces.
that was the chair
Yeah.
connection.
Right, and so, as a part, as a shopping center,
Close to the required.
Right, it was, the numbers were pretty far, I'm not trying to say, we're not looking at parking spots to that. So with this open application to tenant, there's no high density customer that they have to be concerned about?
no, our code basically says if you can provide, 3 commercial uses, then it's considered a shopping center. So if you think of, like the center behind, Melon Mushroom, there's a coffee shop, there's a frozen yogurt place, and there's retail shops. It's all just considered one parking area for that.
Okay, it's part of education for
And
me.
10 spaces is,
That meets the requirement based on the square footage of the building.
okay. Were you the owner of the building when the last applicant came? Or do you own the building?
Yeah, I was
Okay.
the last applicant.
Okay. Sorry, it's been. Any other
Is
questions?
that the current parking configuration right now? Is that the other one?
No, that's not the current, that's the
Yes, it's
proposed.
straightforward, yeah.
Mhm.
Trying to think of what
Yeah, currently it's not even really striped, it's just kind of a blank
Right.
Yeah, just kind
bit of asphalt. So the biggest change is that they'll be required to put in an ADA space and then a dumpster enclosure. So that's actually probably reducing what parking they could have provided, but it still equals the minimum.
And currently, there's no landscaping, I believe, on the
No,
line.
there's not.
That's just food truck.
Yeah.
There's no restriction in terms of uses that this property can be used for.
Only what's either allowed or conditional under the C1 districts.
Yeah, the last variance was for 12 parking spaces in lieu of 30 for the hair salon, so it's pretty different from this request. Any other questions for the applicant?
I've done,
I guess the speaker cards here, Steve. At least have 2
You
seated.
can be seated for now, and I will open the public hearing.
Is Tony Davenport present? Well, we received a card dropped off by Tony Davenport of 55 Tallwood Road. I oppose the agenda item, BOA 23-10052. Landscape required must be enforced to avoid more unsightly businesses. And we also have one from Alex Manolis. Manolis, my apologies. If you'd like, you said you wanted to address the board?
I would.
Please step forward and be sworn in.
And you'll have 3 minutes to speak once you are sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes,
Please state your name and address.
my name is Alex Manolis. I live at 222 14th Avenue North.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Jack Street, okay. Our concern there is drainage. You may or may not know, but 14th Avenue North has a very bad drainage problem. And all of the water that comes from First Street all the way to Third Street goes to one sewer right at the corner, and it backs everything up. If we lose more green space, then there's going to be more water involved there. And right now, we're looking at just the rains that we've had the last couple of days, water over 8 inches deep on 14th Avenue North. As I said, it only goes into one sewer, and it's right at the corner. So if we, like I said, if we lose the green space, that's where the water, some of that rainwater is gonna go. So that's our concern with that condo that's right behind them. Because they're talking about, taking some of that. So that's our concern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, I think you dropped something.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience who has not filled out a speaker's card who wishes to speak on the matter? And if so, please fill one out before you leave. Okay, would the applicant care to address any of the statements made during public comment?
Not at this time.
Okay. Then I will close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve BOA 23-10052 as submitted, as it meets the requirements of the application.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I'll kick it off. I mean, I absolutely empathize with the gentleman who spoke during the public hearing, but I would say that from what I understand, there's no loss of green space. It's just a continuation of, I mean, Amy's Turn has been there in that building my entire life, and I think it's had that paved parking area. So I totally understand that drainage is an issue, and certainly in that area, but the fact that it's really not changing anything except for the use of the building makes me more inclined to approve the request than if she were taking out landscaping islands to pave for more spaces.
There's a loss of 2 trees.
Sorry?
There's a loss of 2 trees.
And I think also if we require landscaping, then we'll have a parking issue.
Right.
I think that, to me, supersedes, I think landscaping is gonna create enough drainage.
Is there 2 trees there? I think there aren't 2 trees, and it's a requirement that they put 2 trees. is what
And
it is.
there's,
Oh, okay. I think I said.
Christian, can you address that?
Yeah, the only trees available or present are actually on the neighboring property, they're not on this property. Based on the square footage of the lot, they would be required under normal commercial standards to put in 2 trees, and obviously they don't have the room for that under the current configuration.
And Christian, with this upgrade, would they be required to do water management into the proper drain?
No, because they're not increasing the impervious surface, so
Okay,
the
so
water
you're-
management just basically grandfathers in anything that's this old, unless you add onto the pavement or make more impervious surface.
I thought we did structural infrastructure, which trigger that, okay.
And just curious, is it because the building ownership changed hands that there's no grandfathering in for the property with the?
Yeah, correct. It's also because it sat vacant for over 6 months.
Okay, so they lost any,
Correct, yeah, they're not conforming statuses, then needs to be brought up to code.
gotcha,
Also, the extent of the renovation they're probably going to do would trigger that anyway,
right,
so it's both.
okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
John Williams,
Yes.
Jeff Trular,
Yes.
Todd Smith,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams,
Yes,
Alexi Gonzalez.
Yes, your request has been approved. Can you call the final case, please?
BOA case 23-10053, applicant Atkins Builders, Inc., John Atkins, property address 020 First Avenue South. Current zoning RN2 RS3 standards. Motion to consider 34-338E1C1 for a front yard setback of 7 feet with a 20 feet minimum 34-338E 1C2 for a corner corner side yard of 10 feet with 13 feet minimum. 34-338E 1C3 for rear yard setback of 5 feet with 30 feet minimum. 34-338E 1E for lot coverage of 50% with 35% maximum. 34-373A5 for a gravel driveway in lieu of required paved driveway or paver strips. 34-425H1 for corner visibility triangle 7 feet in depth in lieu of 10 feet required for the driveway to allow for construction of new single-family dwelling. The property address 021 First Avenue South.
Thank you. Would the applicant please be sworn in to give your testimony?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
John Atkins, 1888 Foss Lane, Jacksonville Beach.
Thank you. Can you describe the nature of the hardship at your property?
It's an undersized lot. I have a couple handouts for you guys to help.
Thank
This lot is 40 by 65. It was a 40 by 70 lot, but the city in 1925 took, I think it's 25, maybe 29, somewhere around there, took 5 feet of the right of way. So now it's a 40 by 65, which all of the lots on both sides of First Street down that direction are. We've worked hard, I saw the last 2 requests for variances on this, and there were some particular issues with backing out on our First Street, and site triangles, and being able to see. And so what we've done is we've kind of flipped the lot. The reason the front yard seems so small is we've turned the house. So the front is facing the south of the narrow way of the lot. The corner yard setback is triggered because now the lot is 65 feet wide, technically. So 20% of 65 or 20 feet, whichever is less, so it's 13 feet, so that's why we're only doing 10. This has the basic same footprint as all of the houses that have been built the past few years on First Street in that general area. What we've done on I've conferred with the neighbor, the Komaraskis, on the east of here, and went over these several variations of this house to minimize the impact on the neighbor to the east, who's the most affected by this. We've actually gotten to where we have a 10-foot setback from that side, so we try to keep it as far away from them as possible. The driveway, what we did, if you see the handout with the layout of the house, we've set the garage back. The 7-foot setback is only from where you see the stairs on that handout. So the garage door is actually 6-point-something feet further back from that. Reason for all of that is you have 7 feet of front driveway plus 7 feet and 7.5 to 8 feet to the road. Altogether, we have right at 20 feet from the road to the garage. So even if the garage is full, still can handle 2 cars in the driveway. So that's why we had the house designed specifically for that.
And it's a 2-car garage?
It's a 2-car garage also.
Can I get a little education on this, how to understand the 7-foot in depth?
Yeah,
The corner visibility triangle, I'm trying to understand.
That I don't quite follow because the house from the, if you look at the survey,
7 feet from the front.
the site, Jacksonville Beach, the site triangle, terrible. Because it goes from the property line, not the pavement, which you can have an 80-foot right of way, and then your site triangle's like way far back, and it's for safety. It's not even a zoning thing as much as a safety issue. From the house, which would be a site triangle for 21st Avenue South and First Street, the house sits 10 feet from the property line. Then there's the 5 feet that the city took. Then there's another 6 5 feet, excuse me, to the edge of the curb, the backside of the curb is another 1.5 to the, so there's 21 feet from the house to the pavement on First Street. So any car that pulls up on 21st Avenue South, the house will not even remotely encroach on a safety issue or side triangle.
Through the chair, there's kind of two issues I want to address. There's a site triangle requirement for the driveway, which is 10 feet, and it sounds like if the garage is actually here, it may meet that. The other site triangle, and this is in the landscaping section of the code, which you guys have the ability to lessen those requirements. The other site triangle is measured from the corner here, and it's 20 feet back and 20 feet back along the property line. That is in the supplemental standards, and it's not something you can get a variance for, so the house has to meet that 20-foot setback regardless.
And it has.
It does not currently, no. Because if you, and again, this wasn't a scale drawing, but based on best calculations I could make, the corner of the house is within that area by at least a foot or two. But again, I don't have a fully scaled drawing to be able to verify that. But he will have to meet it regardless, so if the house has to shrink by a foot or two, then.
So is that part of the application that we're looking at?
No, it's something we noted when we were doing the report that it didn't meet that requirement, so.
It's really not for us to review, it's we make sure it hits.
Correct. The other one was the driveway, which it sounds like since the garage is actually pushed back, he's got a little over 7, he's got 10 feet plus.
So that's the 34-425H1.
Right.
So that, with his recess in the driveway, he actually meets that requirement.
Yeah, I didn't realize from what was shown that that's exactly what, because I didn't have the full floor plan that you guys are looking at.
Do you agree with that comment?
I agree with half of it, yes.
Well, that's not part of the comment.
The part about the driveway, yes, the small part with the street, and it's been done numerous times. That's why you see the brand new building across the street has a triangle across the side. It's because there's no right of way, there's nothing. It's measured from the right of the property line, not the actual right of way. That's a safety issue, and this does not in any way, shape, or form encroach on that.
So Christian, it sounds like this is a non-negotiable, but I'm wondering why it's mentioned in the staff report as a part of the recommendation.
It was more for the applicant and just to ensure that it was there so he was aware. But I wanted you guys to be aware as well that it isn't something that you have purview over.
Sure.
So do we need to modify this at all?
No, because it's not part of the request, because he can't ask for it in essence.
But are you still recommending the 2 conditions?
The first one I think we could waive, which was for the driveway, because I didn't realize that the garage was going to be set back, so that visibility triangle will be respected. The other one, yeah, I mean, you can leave it in there, you can take it out, it doesn't matter, he still has to meet it.
Okay. And I see from this more detailed drawing that you have a deck included in what's been requested on the 3rd floor, a lanai on the 2nd floor.
Correct.
So, because it didn't look like there was any outdoor paved space accounted for.
There's not, that's why this is
But with the lanai and the deck, you're figuring that.
that's the outdoor living space on these small lot houses. There's,
Okay.
I assume you took into consideration air conditioning pads, et cetera?
I'm sorry.
You took into consideration air conditioning pads and everything else you need?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, everything is figured.
Now with the gravel driveways, this is a full gravel driveway.
When we submitted for this, I didn't have the drawing that you have in front of you. If we do a concrete driveway, we're gonna be about this close. I think we can make it. So,
That close to 50%?
right at 50%, I mean like 50.02.
I think your preference is concrete if you can get that.
Absolutely, my preference is concrete. And so if we can, when we come down and put the final drawing on the paper, on the survey, and we come up with it, I will absolutely put a drop, yes. And I've got some ideas to get it to 50%, so.
Any additional questions for the applicant at this time?
Back in front of us, yeah.
Hearing none, you can be seated for now, and I will open the public hearing.
have any speakers cards?
I'm sorry.
I would like
We got- Okay, we have communication speaker cards, which is 52 and 52, this is case 53. Okay. So we just have the email, letter of correspondence. Start with,
I think this will also be good to speak, so we can have the two first. if you want.
so your cards
You
first.
can go ahead first. You may have the letter already, so.
I think that's what you want to put letter, if I'm mistaken, yes.
So you do have it.
Okay, there, Janelle, so that's a good speaker card.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Janelle Wilson at 2014 South Oceanfront Drive, Jacksonville Beach. Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to speak on this. As a neighbor of this property, ideally, I would like to have nothing built here. We'd like it vacant because there's a line of sight going out onto First Street. However, since this is private property, this is not likely to happen. Having said that, my concerns are with the parking, because we already have a parking issue in that area. But he does have the parking spaces that was allowed across the street and the various other new buildings that were built recently. The other concern that I have is that right across the street, there was a wall built, a 2 to 4 foot wall built with pavers that going on at First and 21st. And I would like for this property not to be allowed to do that because of the site and turning in and out of the street. If you're trying to turn into 21st Avenue South going east, and there's a car stopped at the parking sign, there's a stop sign there, there's no way to get in and out without one of the cars moving. So you have to allow the car to move out away from the stop sign first. That same thing happened on 20th Avenue South and Ocean Drive, just a block or so away. And that was a concrete corner that was put in there, and cars run into it all the time. It's all marked up with tire tracks and scrapings and everything. So I would like to not have that an issue at 21st and First. Having said this, there's going to be something built there, and the other builder, John Atkins, has reached out to the neighbors and has made adjustments to try to accommodate their concerns and wishes. So in view of that, again, saying most of the neighbors would like to see it stay vacant, but that's not going to happen. So we would like to, and I think also building a new high-end property here would improve the area and also improve the somewhat unkept lot that's been there for several years. So for that reason, and the fact that I support private property rights, I would be in support of this variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other correspondence?
I will read into the record a couple of correspondence we have. First, letters from David and Cheryl Telesio of 2105 2nd Street South. This property owner of the neighborhood for 25 years and getting more and more concerned about new construction neighborhood. The latest request is a perfect example of what's going on in the last decade. Some of these requests seem reasonable: corner side yard, gravel driveway, and corner visibility. The front yard setback at 7 feet is not acceptable, and the rear one is unreasonable. Lot coverage of 50% is also not acceptable. The new house directly across First Street is a good example of lot density. It's a beautiful use of corner property to not push the home within 5 feet of the neighbor. We do not want to set a precedent for the owners to build their homes to the edge of the property. We want more green space around these new homes, not less. We all know the formula: more square footage equals higher home values. It seems to be another attempt at getting the most money that can be by pushing the limits of the most homes are built within. Do the money grab somewhere else and not in my backyard. One from Ken Marsh. Ken Marsh's address is 201 Gale Avenue. I'm running in support of the variance request of 10053 located at Long 21st Avenue South, is known as the agenda for 21st. I'm also asking support for this variance due to the fact that dwelling in the property will improve the overall appearance of the neighborhood. Only by having a dwelling with on-site owners will be able to stop the illegal dumping of garbage. This letter goes on quite a bit. I read through it. It talks about the compliance and garbage and pictures of the trash, and it also talks about the city trying to code enforcement, police officers, and civil actions trying to stop the brief from being dropped on the lot. Overall, the letter was in support of the applicant. Then we have another letter from Julie Tomas of 2008 Ocean Drive South. I'm sorry I'm not here to personally address the board about my concerns. I had another appointment, could not be rescheduled. I do believe that the board should grant some relief to the property owner. However, I have two concerns. My first concern is the corner visibility. With recent developed properties in the area, the traffic volumes of both vehicles and pedestrians have increased greatly in the past few years. I would like the board to consider maintaining standard corner visibility requirements to not add another low sight intersection in the area. I've lived in the block for 40 years and I can definitely say that visibility for drivers and pedestrians is of the utmost importance. My other concern is hard to understand exactly what we built on the property when viewing its application. The application only defines requests for the setbacks in the front yard and the corner yard and the rear yard, and lists no setbacks for the easterly side yard bordering my property. Looking at the drawings submitted, it appears that they would be built requesting a 10-foot setback on the east border. If in fact correct and granted, I ask to consider ensuring that any plans for the property do not include overhanging or cantilevers aspects on sides that border another property. We live in very close quarters with our neighbors and would like to maintain what little privacy each of us has. Since this is a corner lot, there are two sides that can be utilized in that manner that do not directly affect privacy of existing homes. Again, I've only seen proposed footprints and requests for the three sides of property. I ask the board to consider defining the 10-foot setback on the east side yard and including the overhangs, cantilever aspects that would extend the encroachments of the neighboring parcels. Thank you for your time and consideration. That is all the communications I believe I have.
Is there anyone else in the audience who has not filled out a speaker's card who wishes to speak? Seeing that there's nobody else in the audience, I'm assuming no. Mr. Atkins, would you like to address any of the statements made during the public hearing?
Yes, briefly. The last one first, Ms. Komorowski, I can't pronounce her name, Pete, and Lisa. That's why I met with her husband, Pete, on several occasions, which if you can look on the east side of the house that faces them, I suggested we put no windows on the first and second floor. There are no windows, as you can see, facing their yard, so I mean, it's as much as I can do for their privacy. We actually pulled it to 10 feet instead of making that a side yard and making it closer to 5 feet. So, ironically speaking, the letter writer before said the house across the street on First Street has almost the identical footprint as this one that she stated was good design, and so different calling, different front and back. This house is only 28 feet wide at its widest point, but at its narrow point, it's only 23 feet wide. So, I mean, I think we really did the most we could with this extraordinarily small lot. And if it was a standard lot, it would be at 21% lot coverage. So, I mean, can't squeeze it much smaller, sorry.
And given the constraints that you're already working under, is it safe to assume that you would not be utilizing any of your yard coverage to build a concrete wall as in solicited?
No, there's no need for that. I think that has something to do with some elevational issues there. We'll be putting a stem wall in because that is in flood zone AE, I think it is. So base flood elevation is 10 feet, blah, blah, blah. We've got to put a stem wall foundation in, so we won't be bringing a lot of fill-ins. We're almost zero on the outside, just enough for landscaping. But so we won't run any water off onto the neighbors.
Any other questions of the applicant?
And just a question came up earlier, Christian. The knee wall that was referenced earlier, that's in the public right away. You can't build on that, right? You can't. I mean, just addressing that question brought earlier.
But no, nor is there any. And I've spoken to Jim
I'm not saying
many
addressing that
times.
question, yeah.
We've worked well together. So.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it is on the property right away, but the one structure, we're talking across 21st, right? Yeah, that was built in 1952, so regardless, it
So we won't see it right
been
now.
built in the same standard, yeah.
And
Then the other question I have for you is, you're okay if we remove the part of the 34425 for the corner of your visibility triangle 7 feet in the application? This is the one about the driveway, so you following?
Oh, the driveway, for the driveway.
Because he feels we can remove that from the application.
Yes, yeah.
process. You're not confident enough to remove the driveway yet, are you? Can we remove the gravel driveway out there?
No, thank you.
Let's try it.
I got a 52 foot percent, I'd be real fucked.
He asked very politely, I think.
No, my preference is to put a concrete block, I think it makes
Most
it
of
a
those
little
will
bit.
I'm sure neighbors refer to that with gravel down there.
I
Yes.
think you must have done a good job communicating with the neighbors, because there's been some very heated feelings over the years by other people.
Yeah, this,
And
I respect it.
it's time until you reach some negotiated agreements.
I live here, and like I tell people, especially when I build gravel driveways, I want to be able to ride my bike down the street and have them wave at me, not pick up a rock out of their driveway and throw it at me.
Any other questions for the applicant?
And,
All right, then I will close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve BOA 2310053 as submitted with the removal of 3-4-425H1 for a corner visibility triangle 7 feet in lieu of depth of 10 feet required for the driveway to be removed.
second,
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Through the chair, just to address the site triangle issue on the regular part of the property. So 34-283 is authorized variances, and it says variances shall only be granted from the dimensional standards of Article 7, the off-street parking or landscape standards of Article 8, and the subdivision standards. So under Article 8, there are the supplemental standards, and the supplemental standards are where the visibility triangle at the intersection of two roads is. So it's not something that falls under the board to be able to grant relief from. The driveway one is, but not the corner one.
All right, any discussion?
I think John said he's done a good job talking to neighbors and working with them directly to what's best. We'll see anything.
Yeah, I wanted to point out that the two pieces of correspondence we received that were opposed, as Mr. Atkins mentioned, the first letter from the Falazalos references the house across the street, which based on the aerial map, looks like it might even take up more of the lot. I see it's only 46%, but it's side, front, and rear setbacks are pretty significant. And then the last letter, 2008 Ocean Drive. Again, if you look at the aerial map, it looks like their home comes almost right up to the rear property line. So you kind of have to consider if they're concerned about somebody encroaching into their property, and the builder and applicant has made efforts to stay as far away as possible, there's kind of a give and take there that their property's moved all the way back, and now they're worried about somebody being too close to their house. So I think for the overall integrity of the neighborhood, it seems that the appropriate amount of planning has gone into the variances that have been requested. Any other discussion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Jeff Trular,
Yes.
Todd Smith,
Yeah.
John Wallen,
yes.
Jennifer Williams,
Yes.
Lexi Gonzalez.
Yes. Your variance request has been approved. Okay, planning department report.
At the last meeting, Chair actually asked, moving forward with the new land development code, there's going to be a period of time where we may be adopting new standards that will affect variances, and what happens between that kind of draft phase and the actual adoption. I spoke to the director, and what she's likely to suggest is that there be an interim moratorium on variances during that period, so people aren't basically paying for variance that they won't need a month later. Because if things go forward as we're proposing, a lot of these issues that we're dealing with on a regular basis for variances will be resolved through changes to the code. That would of course have to be approved by council, and a period of time hasn't been decided at this point, but that's going to be the department's recommendation. It's very similar to what Neptune and Lake Beach did during their adoption phases as well.
And so then anybody who comes in for a permit who meets the requirements of the existing soon-to-change code will be able to get their permits and,
Yeah, I mean, kind of the
Anybody
worst
with
case
experience?
scenario is if somebody needs relief currently, they're trying to pull a permit, they may be delayed a month or two, because otherwise they would be spending the time and money to get a variance that then come January they may not need. Also considering the time frame in between submittal and actual hearing date, I don't foresee that there'll be a much bigger delay than what would normally be included in getting a variance. So I don't think the impact will be huge, honestly, in the variances that are applied for. But yeah, if someone submits a permit that meets the correct code, obviously they would get approved through the building department, and then at a later date may be able to do additions and things like that without having to come to board. But all that's obviously theoretical at the moment, but that's kind of the,
They come through and build a pool or a deck afterward.
right, exactly.
You see,
Provided everybody.
That's if anything, it's all depends on the crews.
Yeah, and I will say that from compiling the results from the 3 workshops that we had, changing lot coverage and minimum lot sizes were the 2 most supported items that we suggested. So I think the odds are pretty good that we'll get some approval for that. That was it.
okay. The next meeting will be another Wednesday meeting, July 5th, correct?
That is correct.
Due to the holiday, all right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.